From deeply upsetting demises that absolutely no one was truly ready for, to one-time heroic forces of good showing their true colors and leaving jaws dangling off the floor in the process. If the various networks and streaming services occupying the modern TV landscape can deliver even a fraction of the gasps and shocks these storylines did with their future projects, the small screen fare is gonna be just fine. Oh yeah, spoilers ahead by the way. Gareth here from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 disturbing TV show storylines that surprised everyone. Number 10, Walt poisons Brock, Breaking Bad. Landing on precisely what beat acted as the definite moment Breaking Bad's Walter White truly embraced his new life as Heisenberg isn't exactly a simple act. What with this being a guy who was seen letting someone choke on their vomit in their sleep and blackmailing Jesse into helping him get into the meth business in the first place. However, many of these unquestionably cruel acts all pale in comparison to the chilling storyline that involved Walt attempting to poison an innocent child, in a bid to get Jesse to believe Gustavo Fring was the one responsible for Brock's dance with death and win back his loyalty in the process. What a guy. By somehow sneaking the Lily of the Valley plant into the vicinity of the youngster, a poisonous plant that has similar symptoms to that of ricin, Walt was able to pull off one of the most diabolical feats of manipulation we've seen on the show to date, catching just about everyone off guard with the frankly sinister lengths he'd go to in order to keep his goal of defeating Gus alive. Number 9, the mother was dead all along, How I Met Your Mother. The somewhat controversial reveal of How I Met Your Mother's titular focus actually being dead by the time the mammoth story was being told to her children still ranks as one of the most surprising storylines to have ever graced the small screen, entirely reframing the tale unfolding for 9 seasons from the second the twist was unleashed onto How I Met Your Mother maniacs. The show's series finale threw a jaw-dropping curveball in the form of Tracy McConnell's tragic demise due to illness that left many with a rather bitter taste in their mouths. Sure, it added a rather heartbreaking layer to the whole series, with Ted Mosby's recounting of this coming together of 2 lovebirds actually acting as a way of bringing his kids around to the idea of him asking out Aunt Robin in the present day, but the soul-crushing reveal of Tracy's all-too-short time in the show's spotlight was the sort of surprising bait-and-switch that likely did more damage to How I Met Your Mother's reputation than good. Number 8, SARAH-LYNN'S death, BOJACK Horseman. The devastating end to the deeply troubled Sarah Lynn's life during Season 3 of BOJACK Horseman added yet another irredeemable layer to an already problematic leading light. After already acting as the worst sort of role model to the child star of horsing around, and influencing her eventual issues with substance abuse as her highly publicized life would unfold, a 9-month sober Sarah Lynn is quickly lured out of sobriety by the alcoholic horse. Only this time, instead of simply sticking to the booze and partying the night away, the duo wind up snorting some BOJACK heroin the fallen TV star was gifted earlier that year. And it's this latest horseman-encouraged occurrence that ultimately leads to the fateful end of BOJACK's one-time castmate's life inside of the Griffith Observatory as Sarah Lynn succumbs to a heroin overdose beside him. Making matters that little more despicable and shocking, Horseman would then intentionally wait 17 minutes before calling 911 during his attempts to cover his tracks upon discovering Sarah Lynn's condition, with his dreadful lack of accountability extinguishing any hopes of her potential survival post-overdose. Number 7, the unexpected fall of Howard, Better Call Saul. Returning to the always gripping small screen depiction of Albuquerque, New Mexico now, and to another staggering conclusion of a life that reduced an already very much accustomed to shock Breaking Bad audience to wincing in their seats. It wasn't the nature of Howard Hamlin's untimely Better Call Saul demise alone that left most fans understandably a little shook up and surprised in the wake of his emphatic gunning down at the hands of Lalo Salamanca in Season 6's 7th episode though. It was more the fact that many had been led to believe that the once respected HHM central figure would either be responsible for his own end due to being driven mad by Jimmy McGill and his schemes during the final season of the show, or find a way to ride off into the sunset before Saul Goodman could entirely wreck his life beyond repair. This being the unforgiving landscape that gave birth to the likes of Walter White and Gustavo Fring, however, Lalo's eventual brutal tying up of an unexpected loose end in Jimmy and Kim Wexler's apartment provided the series with merely its latest reminder that it's foolish to assume anything when it comes to Vince Gilligan's world. Number 6, Terry is racially profiled, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Establishing itself early on as a show fond of pumping as many running gags and slapstick shenanigans into its episodes' runtimes as humanly possible, the few times Brooklyn Nine-Nine has suddenly opted to tackle much more sensitive subjects have definitely acted as breaths of fresh air amidst the often balmy investigations and storylines. But perhaps the most shocking and devastating detour seen throughout the show's run to date came during Season 4's Moo Moo episode, as Terry Jeffords finds himself being made the victim of racial profiling as he bumps into a fellow officer in his neighborhood at night. If this awful occurrence isn't enough, Terry's eventual decision to file a complaint against the officer who he feels targeted him because of the color of his skin comes with yet more frustrating consequences, as Captain Holt explains how said decision could have a negative impact on his colleague's career. And the final blow of Terry's application for the role of City Council liaison being rejected upon his complaint eventually being filed would ultimately round off a surprising storyline that refused to shy away from the depressing reality many minorities are still forced to deal with on a daily basis. Number 5, Wanda enslaves an entire town, WandaVision. Kevin Feige opted to head down a largely different route with the unveiling of the fourth phase of MCU goodness, by setting the ball rolling on the small screen, and doubling down on the unanticipated over the course of Marvel Studios' first Disney Plus offering in WandaVision. Instead of framing one of the show's leading lights in the sort of heroic light she had been for much of her time in the Super Sun up to this point, Wanda Maximoff's grief is shown to have influenced a particularly distressing decision that sat as the chilling catalyst for the sitcom-heavy show altogether. In trying to keep the idea of her relationship and potential family with her fallen love Vision alive post-Thanos Mind Stone yanking, Wanda winds up enslaving the entire town of Westview in the midst of altering the locale's reality to suit her new made-up life, with said civilians being very much conscious throughout and being powerless to escape the artificial reality Wanda is painfully forcing them to experience. Not even the Scarlet Witch's eventual decision to free them late in the day could erase the fact that she was unexpectedly at the center of one of the MCU's most alarming storyline developments yet. Number 4, bodies begin to break, Stranger Things. The cast and crew involved with the latest slice of nostalgic 80s Stranger Things goodness definitely weren't kidding when they stated that the show's 4th season would be its scariest and darkest of the bunch. But even with that warning beforehand, fans still weren't entirely ready for the central acts of horror that would provide the series with some of its most unexpectedly frightful visuals ever. Getting things off to an appropriately terrifying start out of the gate, Chapter 1 sees troubled cheerleader Chrissy Cunningham being haunted by visions of her past and a grandfather clock, before being brutally possessed and physically broken by new big bad Vecna. Just like that, the series as a whole shockingly leveled up when it came to its all-round horror-influenced tone, highlighting how the Duffer Brothers weren't afraid to take things down a much darker road in their efforts to raise the Hawkins stakes. And in another entirely stunning shift that next to nobody saw coming, Eleven and the gang are also dealt a seemingly fatal blow in the end, as Max's fateful possession and grotesque near-death body breaking paved the way for the Upside Down finally being successfully leaked into their world. Number 3, Turk sneaks CARLA birth control pills, Scrubs. Sitting as what many would happily class as goals when it comes to the always complicated relationship wadders, there was actually a specific beat during Christopher Turk and Carla Espinosa's routinely wholesome Scrubs romance that left many rubbing their eyes in disbelief during Season 5's first episode. After deciding to finally commit to having a child together, Turk begins to get understandable cold feet about the whole life-changing scenario. Instead of simply having a mature conversation with his partner about the reservations he was experiencing though, Turk creepily opts to secretly slip Carla some birth control pills in her sleep among many other places. Thankfully, Carla was able to snuff out the alarming attempts to covertly stave off pregnancy after spotting a pill in a brownie, and the two were able to talk things out as Turk eventually comes around to the idea of being a papa down the line. But Turk's childish and surprisingly extreme commitment to controlling his wife's body in this moment is a storyline development very few expected or actually wanted to see go down. Number 2, Homelander's milky obsession, The Boys. When pushed to land on just one specifically arresting development over the course of The Boys' already iconic 3-season run so far, easily the show's most controversial soup by the name of Homelander was always going to find himself in the headlines, wasn't he? And while outing someone against their will on live TV, and leaving an entire plane of helpless civilians to die definitely rank as some of his more evil acts, it's Homelander's distressing obsession with milk that provides the show with one of its more unexpectedly freakish storylines. With Homelander being entirely gripped by his mother figure Vice President of Hero Management Madeline Stillwell for much of Season 1, his shocking murdering offer during said season is only made even more disturbing by the sight of him eventually heating up a bottle of her breast milk and taking an intimate swig of it post-death in Season 2. And Season 3 only added further fuel to this surreal milking detour, with Homelander having an orgasmic time draining a cow, as his bizarre milk obsession appears to be growing by the season. Number 1, AJ's attempted suicide, The Sopranos. Quite simply, The Sopranos was an epic that refused to back away from some of the more disturbing realities the likes of Tony and his family were faced with over the years. And in arguably the most harrowing narrative to play out under our very noses over the course of the HBO show's iconic run, none other than Tony's own flesh and blood Anthony Jr.'s tragic journey from innocent child struggling to find his place in the world to suicidal adolescence on the verge of a truly distressing fate reached its climax beside the Soprano family pool. With AJ being pushed to his limits on the back of being bullied and pushed around for much of his younger years, his rebellious antics and partying eventually paved the way for depression, and a completely shocking attempt to end it all with a plastic bag wrapped around his head as he dives into the water with a cement block attached to his leg. And AJ's desperate cries upon being saved from his fate by his father only succeed in hammering home the way Tony and the rest of the family inevitably corrupt even the most innocent of souls within their ranks. Yep, it's pretty distressing stuff, but my god, it made for some incredible television. And that's our list. Know of any other disturbing TV show storylines that surprised everyone? Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, make sure to head on over to whatculture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I have been Gareth, as always, from whatculture.com. Thank you for clicking on this video today, and hopefully I will see your faces very, very soon. Bye-bye!